What's going on, guys? This is Martyrs Brigade 99. That was kind of funny, wasn't it? Anyway, you guys know the intro. I don't have to go over it this time. Anyway, so last two videos, we're kind of talking about the worries that I have anticipating the release of Dark Souls 3. And I think I discussed those worries enough, so there's really no point in keep, as they say, beating a dead horse. So, as we're playing Bloodborne right now, let's just go ahead and try to enjoy Bloodborne. So right now I'm in the Is Chalice, PvPing with friends. I got Fig the Newton. Ironically, I met this guy from playing Destiny. And, after playing Destiny with him, doing raids and whatnot, and discussing, Dark Souls-like games, prior to the release of Bloodborne, we told him, we're like, hey, dude, we're not going to be playing Destiny once Bloodborne is released. Why don't you just go ahead and get it? So, after having a little faith in what we were saying about past Souls games, he went on ahead and took us up on it, and he bought the game, and he's been PvPing and playing the game ever since, right? So we have Fig the Newton, Samuel, VF, Artorias 88, and Rikiu. All these guys I used to PvP with all the time in the MLB, right? So it's basically just PvPing with friends. And, actually, I think I stated this in a previous video, but honestly, this time around, I kind of prefer playing with friends a little more than I like doing random invasions. Random invasions are fun, right? But the gun spam and the R1 spam does get annoying at times. Now, one thing that I used to stress in my videos for Dark Souls 1 is that if you want to become an all-around player, I would suggest that you do random invasions and also do 101s, right? Whether it be the Berg back in Dark Souls 1 or, maybe the MLB. That's where I used to find myself all the time. So it's kind of like the same thing with Bloodborne. If you kind of want to find that happy medium, sometimes you might want to find some randoms, do some random invasions. Whenever you get kind of exhausted of doing the 2v1s and the 3v1s or whatnot, perhaps you just want to PvP with friends. PvPing with friends will allow you to kind of, as I used to say, sharpen up on your tactics. Oftentimes when you PvPing with friends, you will kind of encounter some techniques that you might not encounter when you're doing random invasions. 9 times out of 10 when I'm doing random invasions, I'm running into the gun spammers, of course the frenzied R1 spammers, the brainless R1 spammers, like without any thought, that's like all they can do, like they're playing against a boss or something. Well, I guess it is a compliment if they call me a boss, but but anyway, and that's what you'll find a lot of times when you're playing against randoms. And it's really no fault to their own, because a lot of people, you just can't deny the fact that most people are not PvPers. The community is largely consistent of people who play throughout the game, who do a little co-op, but couldn't really care less about PvP. The PvP community is such a small portion of the overall community, which is one of the reasons why I think they tend to give a little more attention to the PvE and co-op than what they do to the actual PvP element, right? And I'm hoping that they kind of even the balance when it comes to Dark Souls 3, because as we already established in the previous video, it's really got to be fun for everybody, right? Fun for the PvP crowd, fun for the co-op crowd, and fun for the individual. So, as I said last time, hopefully we'll have all those 3 objectives satisfied in the next game. Okay, so be that as it may, I think we all get the point right about now. So this is when I like to kind of experiment with weapons. I'm on my 40-40 build. The stats are, I think I have like 45 vitality, 20 endurance, 40 in strength, 40 in skill, 5 in blood tinge. No, I don't have 5. I have 10 in blood tinge and 15 in arcane. The 10 will allow me to go ahead and use the Rite of Pelage. What else is it? The rifle spear, I believe. The 15 in arcane isn't really necessary, right? But it does allow me to use a lot of the arcane tools. And, you know, the arcane tools are not only good for PvP, but I can also use them for co-op, right? Because you kind of have that bell. I forget whatever that bell it is to help to heal cooperators. That's definitely handy whenever you're doing co-op. Whether it be an active person or whether it be an old hunter that you summon. So that's always a good thing. So right about now, this is probably my most used build, you know, because I used to use a strength build all the time, but there were times where I'm kind of like, you know what, I'm fighting against a player, I kind of need a faster weapon to swing, and I really wasn't equipped to use faster swinging weapons. Or, you know, to the other extreme, I would be using a skill build, and sometimes I'm like, well, these skill weapons are kind of too predictable. I kind of want to mix it up. So I think that's one of the advantages that the quality build has. The quality build is an all-around build that you can use pretty much anything. And as a matter of fact, that's really going to be the first character that I'm going to create in Dark Souls 3. I'm going to find out what are some of the minimum stats. I don't know if you guys followed my playthrough in Dark Souls 1, but I basically played Bloodborne, Dark Souls 1, and, you know, soon to be Dark Souls 3, all in the same way. In the very beginning, I upgrade my vitality and then my endurance. And, you know, because that way, whenever, you know, because there's always some twinks, right? There's always going to be some griefers, always going to be some people who went through the game at a lower level, and then they're invading the lower levels with some of the better weapons. But when you're starting off, you know, neglecting strength, neglecting skill or dexterity, you know, depending upon what game you're playing, and you prioritize endurance and health as far as you know, survivability is concerned, you're always prepared, right? So, number one, that helps when you're doing PvE, because you can't really go wrong when you're prioritizing endurance and vitality. Number two, as you're collecting weapons throughout your playthrough, you kind of have a general idea as to what's going to be the minimum stats. Now, I do know there's going to be guides for the game, just like there were guides for Dark Souls, just like there was eventually a guide for Bloodborne. But in the absence of a guide, when you're prioritizing vitality and endurance, you're able to kind of collect things and have a general idea of how you need to create your 40-40. Right? So just as that worked in Dark Souls 1, and it also worked in Demon Souls and Bloodborne, 9 times out of 10, the same approach to leveling your character is going to work for Dark Souls 3. So, like I said before, this is my 40-40. The only weakness that it has right now is that I can't use the wheel, which I really like. And as a matter of fact, I'm kind of creating a build to compensate for that. And it's going to be my Moonlight character. And that's going to be the last build that I create, right? Because the Moonlight character is going to allow me to use the wheel and the Moonlight Holy Blade. So I can't use the wheel, and I can't use the Moonlight Holy Blade. As far as weapons that I can use, but I don't really have maximum damage potential, it's the Blades of Mercy and the Recoil. But it doesn't really matter, right? Because I only lose 10 levels in scaling for the Burial Blade. I'm sorry, not for the Burial Blades, but for the Blades of Mercy and for the Recoil. But on the other extreme, I get the benefit of 2 scalings with the 40-40 with my other weapons. So the quality build, in my opinion, is the best build to create. Now, if you're the type of person that doesn't really like to experiment, then perhaps, you know, a skill build or a pure strength build or a pure arcane is the best way to go. But one thing that has definitely been consistent with me, and all you guys would know, and as far as you guys have been with me for a while, I like to use some of everything, right? So the quality build is always the best approach to PvP, at least for me. Okay, so enough about my quality. So let's talk weapons. So the DLC has been out for a couple weeks now, and I've had a reasonable amount of time to experiment with most weapons in the DLC. Funny thing about it is I haven't really experimented that much with the Moonlight Holy Sword, but most other weapons I have. You know, the Beast Cutter, you know, the Safe, the Amygdala Arm, Boom Hammer, a lot of those weapons. And out of all of them, I would say that I like the Safe, the Beast Cutter, Whirligig, Whirligig, of course. Like, that's definitely one of my top 3 weapons. And a couple others. All right. I've seen a few videos of people talking about the Beast Safe, and I've heard them say, well, I didn't really like the weapon. It was kind of weird to get adjusted to. And I think one of the main reasons is because you have to time your attacks. It's not like one of those assault weapons where you can just get in there, R1 spam, and you're pretty much good to go. No, you need to time your attacks, whether it's in the closed position or the open position. But that's one of the things that I like. It's not one of those weapons that as soon as you pick up, you can just R1 spam and you're good to go. No, no, no. You need to time those attacks. And I think any good player, any well-rounded player, will have experience with, definitely the weapons that are basically pickup friendly, but they're also familiar with the weapons that take a little more time to experiment with. And I think that's one of those weapons where you have to, matter of fact, not even that, think about the Amygdala Arm. I love the Amygdala Arm. It has a strange moveset. You know, it's not one of those ones where you can just get up and, it's not really spam friendly. You definitely have to time your attacks. But the good thing about it is it has the potential to throw people off. Right? Because 9 times out of 10 when you're PvPing, you're just going to see like a few weapons. The recoil, Ludwig if you're dealing with co-opers, some of these other type weapons. But then when you kind of surprise somebody with the Amygdala Arm, it's kind of like, holy crap, what is this? Because it's not really one of those weapons that a lot of people use. So I tend to gravitate to a lot of those. Number one, because it tend to take people by surprise, and number two, because I enjoy the challenge of trying to get good with the weapon is not so user friendly. So I'm really enjoying all of the weapons. I think the only weapon that I don't really like is the Boom Hammer, and I think because it's, let's just be frank, the weapon is shit. Right? The Boom Hammer is shit. Dude, I have used it. I have tried it. I have gemmed it. I have done every possible thing you can do with that Boom Hammer. I've used physical gems. I've used nourishing gems. I've farmed, what was that? I believe it's like Lore Loran, right? It's like these fire beasts where you can get these plus 67, add fire gems. I've done all of that. And at the end of the day, the AR just doesn't really, the AR just really isn't consistent with actual damage output, at least for me. I know some people will say, hey, Brigade, I don't know what you're talking about because mine melts. That may be good for you, your experiences, and your Boom Hammer, but relative to my own experiences, now that's probably the only weapon that I'm just going to go ahead and keep in the vault. Right? But everything else, I use it, whether it be random invasions or playing with friends. And, it's not just one of those things where I'm in the phase where I'm only using the newest weapons because, you know, the DLC is here and I'm just trying to get proficient in those. No, I'm trying to incorporate not only the new weapons, but also some of the old weapons and my overall approach to PvP. You know, I still use the threaded cane. I still use the beast claws, you know, whether it be in the original form or in the new updated form that came in the DLC. You know, still using the hunter axe, the Kirk hammer, you know, in addition to a lot of the, you know, obviously, you know, the amygdala arm and a lot of these other weapons. So I'm still incorporating all these things. So I've really been enjoying myself. And like I said before, I think it's a good thing to PvP with friends in addition to doing random invasions. As I used to say, you do too many random invasions, you tend to get sloppy, right? Because people who play throughout the game and who don't really care much about PvP are going to make certain types of mistakes that you're not going to see when you play against a person who prioritizes PvP just as much as you do. Right, so if you tend to do a little too much, I mean, it's almost like guys who used to play in the forest, right? And they were really good, who were beating up gankers. But then when you do some one-on-ones, it's like, dude, you're actually shit. Well, the reason why they're shit is because, you know, the tactics that might work against two gankers might not necessarily work against a person like, well, let's just say Apple. Shout outs to Apple. Right? Or let's just say Soulless or some of these other guys who not only do a lot of random invasions, but who also do a lot of tournaments, fight clubs, and 1v1s. So, I mean, it is what it is. So I'm enjoying it. It's really not that much I can say. You know, I think the weapons are awesome. I think the addition to a lot of these weapons greatly improved the diversity. Because when the game was first released, I think everyone was kind of disappointed and let down at the weapon variety. But I think these additional, I don't know, 10 weapons that we get, 10 overall, I don't think anyone can have any valid complaints other than that ridiculous Fist of Gracia, I think it's called. And I think that weapon is probably the only shit weapon that's out there. Right? I mean, I've gotten that weapon up to +9. I've punched with it. I've tried to combo with it. I've tried to do anything that I could with it. And that is probably one of the only weapons that I can think of that is just absolutely shit. The Fist of Gracia and the ridiculous boom hammer. And as a matter of fact, I think I would have to put the Fist of Gracia like a step or two below the boom hammer, because I hear some people say the boom hammer is good, but just not relative to my own experiences. I don't like it. But I can't remember anyone who have ever said that the Fist of Gracia is actually viable. Like, in other words, why would you use a punch that doesn't have a prolonged stun, right? Can't parry, you can't chain, as opposed to, let's just say, an Evelyn that not only could parry but also could do some good chip damage. Like, why would you even use that fist weapon as opposed to a gun? Look, I'll put it to you this way: when you come up with the answer, you let me know. Right? So out of all the weapons, I think that's probably the only shit weapon out of all the 15. Alright, so I think that's pretty much it. I did a long rant, right? Pretty much about, I don't know, a build, 40-40, different types, approaches to PvP. You know the whole nine, same old, same old. Nothing pretty much changes in the brigade. I stay consistent across the board. So I'm just going to go ahead and let this last fight be showcased. Shout out to all my buddies, you know, Artorias, Sam, Fig, the whole nine. And anybody else, you know, who want to go ahead and join up. Go ahead, search on the short routes, do your invasions, do your 1v1s. Every now and then I will be streaming. You know, sometime I kind of stream when I'm putting my characters together, but sometime in the near future, I will be streaming some fight clubs to kind of do something with the community. I mean, granted, I do have my issues, but the game overall, despite its shortcomings in PvP, is such a short game that I really don't want it to die out prematurely. Right, so hey, it is what it is. I'll do whatever I can. Hopefully we'll have some other guys. Shout out to Dark Lord Sand, who definitely keep the community alive and doing all the things that he do. So that's about it, right? So hey, I hope you guys enjoyed the showcase. Hope you guys enjoyed the rant, you know, talking about PvP weapons and all that. And hey, until next time, Martyrs Brigade is out.